Louie T. Welcome to this LouieTeeNetwork exclusive, limited series, The Reign of Terror, chronicling the 23 years of pure hell that Daniel Snyder has put this fan base through. He's gone. So now we're on 2015, and I think this puts us at chapter 17. And let me set the scene for you as we head into this season. There are a lot of changes in 2015. So you're at the tail end of the Griffin experiment. This is the year that he's got to show that 2012 wasn't a fluke and that he can get back to that player. So going into the preseason, he was the starting quarterback. But nothing was etched in stone. There was Kirk Cousins still, who was also in that 2012 draft class, if you remember. And there was also Colt McCoy, who turned out to be a favorite of second year now head coach Jay Gruden. So there was pressure on Robert going into this season to prove that he was the guy. So there's that in the backdrop. You have Scott McCloughan coming in because we had now, this is going into year 5 of Bruce Allen as the GM, and it hadn't worked. And he had been terrible. And so we wanted a real personnel guy in the building. So here comes Scott McCloughan. So we were so excited about that as a fan base. So that's another big nugget in this 2015 season. And then you look at just everything. Like, we're going to set the scene as we get to, the season and into the You Like That game and all of the things that were going on that year. But this was a really solid draft class. And we thought it was really solid. Why? Because it was Scott McCloughan's draft class, right? So this was Brandon Sheriff in the first round, Preston Smith in the second round, Jamison Crowder. And look, Scott McCloughan was not perfect. As a matter of fact, when we look back at his draft classes, they weren't all that great. And he missed on some things. One of the big things that he had missed on, in particular in this year, I know a lot of Washington fans wanted Washington to select the Maryland receiver. And we didn't know at the time what he would turn into, Stephon Diggs. But a lot of fans of Washington are fans of the University of Maryland. They knew what he was at Maryland, thought he could play football really well. And he's right in your backyard. And a lot of fans wanted Stephon Diggs over Jamison Crowder. And so that was a big discussion. We know who ultimately turned out to be the better of the two receivers. And there were some misses, obviously, including Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones, who was his third round pick that year, J.C. Ice. You also got Kaishan Jarrett in this draft. So this was, at the time, this was a big draft. We know what Sheriff went on to be for us. Preston Smith, really good football player for us. Jay wanted him back desperately. The organization didn't want to pay him. He goes to Green Bay and has 13 and a half sacks the next year, right? Like, Preston Smith's a damn good football player. J.C. Ice was really good for us. They had some really big moments. Also, towards the end of his Redskin career, not so big moments. So, but Matt Jones, had all the talent in the world, had issues holding on to the football. That was pretty much his downfall in Washington. And Kaishan Jarrett had a fantastic rookie season and, was heading into cult-like figure, territory. He was turning into, before there was Cam Curl, there was Kaishan Jarrett, right? He was going to be that kind of a player for us. And in the final game of the season, week 17, at Dallas, meaningless game, he gets a shoulder stinger and nerves are destroyed in his shoulder. He's never the same. He had to be carted off in that game. We all remember. Scary situation. Never played football again. So that was a really good draft class in the moment. So as you head to the preseason, right? And I want to make sure I make mention of this now because I may forget. Pierre Thomas was a huge pickup late in that season. We had some issues at running back. They went out and got Pierre Thomas. He was huge in the run to the playoffs. Great catching the football out of the backfield. Really solid veteran presence in that locker room that I thought came in and helped this team down the stretch. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So you get to the preseason, and it's Griffin's show. But again, nothing etched in stone here. I know I remember this like it was yesterday, talking to my buddy on the phone, and he asked me about Griffin, and I said, look, man, I want to believe, but he can't do it. I remember telling him that, but me still rooting like hell in the preseason for him. We go to Cleveland. He plays okay, but you're not overwhelmed. And in the back of my mind, I know Kirk's the better option. I know this. I've watched enough to know. But we still got questions about Kirk Cousins. Keep in mind, the narrative on Kirk Cousins is that he throws too many interceptions, and they're back-breaking interceptions. He's going to make a mistake at some point that's going to cost you. So that's the narrative on Kirk Cousins. Keep in mind, it's not like this clean slate of Kirk Cousins and he's fantastic. We're going into 2015 with a Griffin. If you can't get it done this year, you're done. Hey, Kirk, if you can't stop throwing picks, you're done. And we don't have anything because you're going to go to Colt McCoy. He sucks. So this was a big year for us, quarterback-wise. And you get to the second preseason game, Detroit, and Robert gets his ass kicked in this game. I mean, he's getting sacked left and right. He's not reading the field. The offensive line was terrible at the time in this particular game as well. But Robert didn't do them any favors, okay? And it's the same offensive line that Kirk played behind, and it didn't look as bad. So he fumbles a ball. He goes to fall on it. A guy falls on him. He ends up getting a concussion. I think he took like a knee to the helmet, gets a concussion. And that was the beginning of the end for him in not just Washington. That was the end of his career, really, as a starter. He did go on to Cleveland, didn't have any success there, went on to Baltimore after sitting out a year and not having work. Baltimore called him up. He ended up being their backup quarterback for a couple of years. COVID was the worst thing that could happen to him because he actually had to get on the field and play, and he stunk it up. And that was that. They moved on from him after that. So Jay Gruden inserted Kirk Cousins for the remainder of that preseason game, or the first half of that game. The next game, Robert was not cleared medically from the concussion protocol, so Kirk got the start in that third preseason game against Baltimore, and he was outstanding. And it was that moment that Jay Gruden, after that game, came out, and he didn't just say Kirk Cousins is the quarterback to start the season. He said those famous words, Kirk Cousins is our quarterback for the entire season. And it sent shockwaves through the fan base because so many fans still wanted Robert Griffin III to prove that he was the guy. I had given up already. I knew what he was at this point. He was damaged goods. He was never going to be the guy that he was in 2012. That ship had sailed. We were chasing a ghost that we would never catch. And I was ready to move on because we had another guy here that I thought deserved an opportunity in Kirk Cousins. And Jay wanted that in 14, but he didn't have any backing, okay? Bruce Allen wasn't going to have his back. Dan Snyder wanted Robert to play. So Jay needed another guy, another voice in the building, and Scott McCloughan offered him that other voice that Dan would listen to because he wasn't going to listen to Jay. So Scott coming in and saying, Dan, he's the best option. You got to let him play Kirk Cousins. And it was Scott McCloughan's voice coupled with Jay Gruden's begging and pleading that allowed him to make that decision to start Kirk for the entire season, and off we went. Week 1, Dolphins come to town. Really disappointing game. We dominated the Dolphins 6 ways to Sunday, but in typical fashion, this was the narrative on Kirk. He threw a back-breaking pick in that game that changed, I thought, the tenor of the game. We were really dominating them, and I think it was in the second quarter. He throws a pick to Brent Grimes, and we were up 10-0 at the time. And it changed the entire tenor of the game. And the Dolphins just hung around. We kept making mistakes, fumbling the football, doing stupid shit. And the Dolphins ultimately beat us 17-10. And I remember being so disappointed because that was Kirk's first real opportunity to be the guy. Normally his opportunities would come later in the season, garbage time, season's already done. This was his opportunity, and that was not the greatest of starts to his tenure in Washington. So really disappointed. I felt like we let the game slip through our fingers. The next week, we got the Rams at the crib, and we take care of the Rams. I mean, we beat them up pretty good. We were up big in that game. I thought that the defense had a good showing, but that was more of a Matt Jones. Who? Matt Jones! Matt Jones had a massive game. I think he had 2 rushing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. He had over 100 yards. And I remember thinking, damn, maybe they know something here about this kid. Because I was not really excited about Matt Jones in the 3rd round. Going back, you could go back and watch the videos. I wasn't blown away. I said, he's okay, but he wasn't the bell cow at Florida. There were other guys there. I just wasn't sure why he was so enamored with him in the 3rd round. But that game showed me that, hey, this dude can play. So we beat the Rams. We get to 1-1 on the season. The following week, early in his career, Kirk had no answers for the Giants. For whatever reason, he could not beat the Giants. And he didn't just not beat the Giants. He played horribly against the Giants. The year before, he had the 4-interception game against the Giants. That was the Larry Donnell game. Well, another stinker from Kirk. This time on a quick turnaround Thursday Night Football at the Giants. Kirk he soiled himself again. And look, our special teams was horrible, and they didn't help. I think we had it seemed like we always got kicks blocked against the Giants for some inexplicable reason, and usually it was in New York, for that matter, on primetime television, and it happened again. Tressway had a kick blocked. Kirk threw some picks again. It was ugly. We got our asses handed to us. It was the one legitimate loss that I thought we had in the first 4 weeks of that season. Ultimately, we would start the season off 2-2. I thought we should have been 3-1. The Giants dominated us in that game. We deserved to lose that football game. But we shouldn't have lost to the Dolphins. We bounced back the week after that loss to the Giants with a big win against Philadelphia on the road, or at home rather, against Philadelphia. And this was the first of what felt like many come from behind victories from Kirk that nobody wanted to give him credit for. I remember this being one of my favorite games of the season to this point, because this is a game that we, had a chance to really put away. We didn't. The Eagles came back, took the lead. They were up late in this ball game. I want to say it was 20-16 maybe. They took the lead. We were up 16-13, had a chance to put them away. We couldn't. And the Eagles came back, took the lead. And now they're up 20-16 with about 5 minutes to go in the game. And Kirk got the football. And we methodically dropped that bitch down the field and made some big throws to Pierre late, including the touchdown pass. I still don't know how he got that ball in there to Pierre. And I still don't know how Pierre held on after taking that shot. He got sandwiched. But Kirk throws the touchdown pass. We get the touchdown, we take the lead, we win that football game 23-20, and I remember saying after that game, Kirk can do this. Kirk's the guy. I was so amped after that game. You're 2-2, and then he follows that up. That was a really good performance by Kirk, and then a great ending with the comeback and the touchdown toss. So Kirk's, playing really good football right now, from a confidence perspective. We go to Atlanta, and I thought he played well again. There were some turnovers in that game. I didn't think they were his fault. If you can recall, we go to Atlanta, Georgia Dome. This is the Ryan Grant fall down game in overtime. So this is a game we had no business even being in overtime with. The defense was playing their asses off. This is, I want to say, year 1 of Joe Barry as the new defensive coordinator. That Jay Gruden had Jim Haslett in year 1. Haslett gets fired. They bring on Joe Barry. Remember, by the time Joe Barry leaves here, he is pariah and public enemy number 1. But when he first got here, this defense was buzzing in that first season in 2015. And they were creating turnovers. And Bashaud Breeland, I told you, his first 2 years of his career, he was playing like a madman. And I think what really zapped his confidence, we'll talk about that in 2016. So Bashaud gets a big pick of Matt Ryan. We had already forced like 3 turnovers in this game. And Bashaud gets a pick on Matt Ryan, I want to say with like 4 minutes left, 5 minutes left in the game, and gets a hell of a return. If one guy blocks, he probably takes it to the crib. I remember being so pissed off, like steaming mad, because one defender, and a lot of times these defenders don't know how to block. If he just stands in front of the dude, Bashaud's going, it's a hell of a return, first of all, to even reverse it back across the field. Bashaud is doing everything he can do to score. He gets no help from his teammates. And if this dude just gets in the way, Bashaud's probably going to jaunt into the end zone. We're going to beat the Falcons. This game should not have been where it was. Instead, offense couldn't get it in the end zone. We settled for a field goal. It's 16-12. Matt Ryan takes the shit right back down the field. They score a touchdown with like 24 seconds left. And so we're down 19-16, and it feels like the game's over. Kirk says, nah. This is on the heels of the Philadelphia comeback. Kirk throws a couple of darts, including a big pass to Pierre Garçon over the middle of the field. It sets up a 52-yard field goal for Dustin Hopkins. I have zero confidence that he's going to make this because he had missed a bunch of kicks already. Not in this particular game, just overtime. And so he makes it. 52-yarder, sends it to overtime. We win the toss. We're moving it down the field. I'm thinking we about to go beat these boys. Remember, it's still sudden death overtime. The rules have not changed. So you don't have to score a touchdown. A field goal wins you the game. And Kirk goes to throw a comeback, and Ryan Grant falls down. Now, I don't know if that pass is completed, but it's not picked off if Ryan Grant doesn't fall. I do know that. And Robert Alford picks the shit off, takes it down the sideline, and I just remember this empty feeling after that game. Like, what the hell, man? We can't win 2 games in a row? This is disgusting. You shouldn't have lost to Miami. You shouldn't have lost this game. Now you're 2-3. When I'm thinking, realistically, we should be 4-1. Now you're 2-3. So the following week, we go to the Jets, and Kirk is absolutely horrendous. I mean, this is some last year shit. This is that Giants game. It's almost like when he goes to the Meadowlands, he loses his mind. He had already had a bad game early in the season against the Giants in the Meadowlands. Last year, we played them at home, and he threw 4 picks. Now we're back in New York, this time playing the Jets, and he was horrible. Some bad interceptions he threw. The one to Revis was like really head scratching because you're like, bro, what are you doing? So that game was super frustrating. We get our asses kicked, and there's this like, now you're 2-4. Like, you shouldn't even be in this predicament, and we shouldn't even be having this conversation, but we weren't sure about Jay Gruden when they hired him. We know that Daniel Snyder is a very impatient owner. You win 4 games last year. You're 4-12. You stink. He can't fix Griffin. Clearly, that's a problem. And that's why he was brought here in the first place. So you know Dan Snyder is pissed off because you told me you could fix him. You told me you could make something out of this kid. You lied to me. And now you suck as a head coach. You were 4-12 last year. We're heading in that direction again. You're 2-4. We got the Patriots after the bye. If you don't win this game against Tampa Bay, you're probably fired at the bye week. Kirk's benched. They're going to put Robert back in, and this shit is going to be a total shit show the rest of the season. In my mind, this was a big game. And you know what Jay said? It's code red. The old code red game. And he was right. It was cold mother effing red because if they didn't win that game, he was fired at the bye week. Kirk was benched, and he probably wasn't going to get another opportunity to start in this league. Like, a lot of people's jobs were on the line. Future could have forever been changed if this game doesn't go the way that it ultimately does. And you look up after 2 quarters of ball, and it's 24-0, and we want to know what the hell is going on. Did y'all not hear Jay say code red? Did y'all not get the message? What are we doing right now? And somehow in the second half, this team, who had been notorious for poor second halves up until this point under Jay Gruden, one of the biggest gripes fans had was no second half adjustments. Team comes out flat. This team flipped the script in the second half and just picked away at this lead. Jordan Reed, who was already establishing himself as one of the best tight ends in the league. I think at that moment it was Gronk 1, Greg Olsen 2, and I think Jordan Reed was the 3rd best tight end in football at that time. And he went apeshit in that game. And we needed all hands on deck because there was no Deshaun Jackson. He was struggling with a hamstring injury. It was just really Jordan Reed, Pierre Garçon, and Jamison Crowder, if you're talking about pass catchers. So Reed stepped up huge, and we just kept chipping away. Kirk kept a read option and scored a touchdown. That got everybody hyped. And then, obviously, again, nobody likes to give Kirk any credit. We're down 30-24 late in the ball game. Kirk gets the rock, takes us down the field, and we all remember the old Jordan Reed slant that he throws. Jordan catches it, high steps it in the end zone, and spikes it, and completes the comeback 31-30. We win that game. Afterwards, you already know. You already know what happens. It's infamous in Washington Redskins lore. You don't have to love Kirk. As a matter of fact, you can hate Kirk, but you can't hate this moment. You like that after that game, walking in to the locker room, sees the camera crew, and he says, "You like that? You like that?" And it went viral. It became a rallying cry. They put it on towels for the playoff game. People made signs. We would chant it at games. Like, it became a thing. It took on a life of its own. Kirk made shirts with the saying on it. It became a thing. Like, it was pretty cool to watch that take off, you know? So you're just 3-4. It's not like you're 5-2. You're 3-4. You're still fighting for your life, but Jay Gruden's job is safe for now. Kirk Cousins' job as the starting quarterback is safe for now. We knew we weren't going to beat the Patriots coming out of the bye, which was why winning against Tampa Bay was so important, because if you lose to Tampa, you're going to lose to the Patriots. You're 2-6. The season's done, and heads are going to roll. So you come out of the bye, you lose to New England as we expected. Then you have this tremendous performance against New Orleans. So if you go back and watch my videos at that time, I had a hit list. All right, it was a revenge tour of sorts. There were teams that had pissed me off in the past that I had a vendetta against, that I needed to exercise some demons on. And there were quite a few teams on that list. The only team I don't think that we ever got was the Patriots. I was still salty from the 52-7 beatdown back in 05, '07. I was still a little salty from that, but they were just better than us. There was nothing we could do about that. But I was still mad at the Buffalo Bills because of the Sean Taylor tribute, and they ran up the sideline for 23 on us. I was still hot about anybody in the NFC East can get it. There's always a reason to be pissed off at the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys. So naturally, I was upset at all those teams as well. Chicago, I still was pissed off about the clothesline from Lance Briggs. So anytime I could get the Bears, I wanted them. So there was this long list of teams, and we were checking those bitches off. And the Saints were high on the list. I was really excited because I was still hot about the Saints coming back and beating us in the year they won the Super Bowl. I want to say it was 2009 that they won. They were undefeated. They came to FedEx. We had their asses on the ropes. We were going to knock them off as the last undefeated team in the league. And that was the Devin Thomas game. You guys know that. And they came back and beat us. Sean Sweezum, God, he was awful in Washington. Misses a chip shot field goal that would have put the game away. And Drew Brees made us pay and went to overtime and then did us in the extra frame. So I wanted them bad, and boy, did we get them. Kirk had himself a field day. Matt Jones! Who? Matt Jones! I remember him catching a big-ass screen and going for a touchdown. I remember Deshaun was back. Kirk was letting it air out. It was a fun game all the way around, man. We just had ourselves a party at the expense of the Rams. Saints. We didn't do that. Again, we still don't do that very often. So it's always fun when we put up a nice, vicious, flavor delicious 40 burger on somebody, it's not close. You just get to enjoy the game instead of being nervous at the edge of your seat. So that was fun, and it was great because it was a revenge game for me. But in typical Washington Redskins fashion, every time we destroy someone in that manner, the following week, we get 40 put on our heads. It seemed like that was always the case. When we put like 50 whatever on the 49ers, the next week we came back, and I think that's the game against the I want to say, no, it could have been the Patriots. I don't think that was the Patriots game. I think that the 49ers was 05. That was Alex Smith rookie season. I feel like we got our asses handed to us that next week in 05. Anytime we score big points. We beat up Detroit, and I want to say beating up Detroit was in 07. And then the next week we give up 52 to the Patriots, I think. So anytime we put up big numbers, expect a big letdown the following week, and that's what we got. The Panthers absolutely shredded us. Now, keep in mind, That was 2015. That was the 15-1 Panthers. That was Cam Newton MVP season. They were a machine that year. However, I remember that game not because we got our asses kicked, but because we got jerked in that game. It was 14-14. We were going toe-to-toe with those bastards. We were confident then. We were in our bag. And I remember Cam Newton throwing a pass out into the flats to Greg Olsen and him getting hit and the ball going in the air, getting picked off and taken back to the crib. I don't remember who did it. It was one of our corners. All right. And he takes it to the house. I'm thinking it's a touchdown. I'm hyped because I'm thinking we can beat these boys. They ain't shit. And they called him for unnecessary roughness, hitting a defenseless receiver. Are you kidding me? It had to be the softest call I've ever seen. It was a terrible call. We got jobbed. And from that point on, the route was on. I think the Panthers might have scored 8 million points unanswered in that game. It's like we just fell the hell apart. You know, we had a kickoff return for a touchdown from Andre Roberts. A lot of y'all used to call him Andre Dropperts. But he was a hell of a special teams player. And he ran one back, and it was 14-14. And we had the momentum. And then that pick six happened, and we could have beat the Panthers. It's like we deflated after that call. It's like we never bounced back from that, and they kicked our ass. They put up a 40 spot on us. Destroyed us in that game. But, you know, I wasn't even pissed about the loss itself or even how we lost. I was pissed about the call because I thought you didn't give us a shot after that. And there were a number of calls that I didn't agree with in that game, but that's no here nor there. They destroyed us. So after that, you're sitting there and you're kind of going back and forth, back and forth. You win a game, you lose a game. You win a game, you lose a game. So now you're getting towards that stretch of football where you got to figure it out. And the Giants come to town, and this is a big one because they had beaten us earlier in the season. At this time, the NFC East is struggling in this particular season. The Cowboys suck. The Eagles are trash. It's just us and the Giants, and neither one of us are really good at this current juncture ourselves. So this game is for first place. I think at the time we were 5-7. I think at this point of the season. No, we were 4-6 at this point of the season, and I think we were tied for first place with the Giants. So the Giants come to town. They had already beaten us once in the Meadowlands on a Thursday night earlier in the season, and we jumped these boys. We're up 20-0. We're kicking their ass. Eli is having a tough day. We picked him off multiple times. We beat him up, and we just can't put him away. And you look up, they scored 14 unanswered points, including this crazy Odell Beckham one-hand touchdown grab. It feels like they got all the momentum in the game. And if Eli sees this bitch one more time, they're going to beat us 21-20. And I remember sitting there feeling like we're going to lose this game 21-20. Eli is about to come back and do us. And this is going to be one of the most excruciating, gut-wrenching losses that I can remember against the Giants in quite some time, probably since 2012 when they beat us in that overtime game. This is going to be a hurtful one. This is going to be a dagger. In a season where we're trying to make something of it, this is going to be a dagger. And Kirk finds Jordan Reed over in the middle of the field on a crucial third down that pretty much put the game away, allowed us to salt the clock away, force the Giants to use their timeouts, etc., etc. Wow, we held on. I did not think we were going to hold on. But we did, 20-14, and now you're 5-6. Everything you want is sitting there in front of you. You got the lowly Cowboys coming to your place on a Monday night. They got Matt Castle and Darren McFadden at running back. This should be a cakewalk. And we turn it over. We do stupid shit. We can't get our footing. The Cowboys are ass-tastic, man. When I tell you they are a horrible team, they are horrendous. And yet, somehow, on a Monday night, similar to what we did to them, 2 years ago, or hell, last year in Jay's first year with Colt McCoy at quarterback, we march in there and win on a Monday night when we have no business beating them. They did the exact same thing to us. Deshaun Jackson, you all remember the muff punt late in the game. He fumbles. That led to our demise. What a disappointing game that was. Another one of those. My dad leaves me the remote, talking shit, goes upstairs, and I'm like speechless. I'm just sitting in the couch, frozen. Like, what did I just watch? Because after he caught the touchdown, after Deshaun caught the touchdown, I'm talking cold hard cash. I'm like, yeah, y'all trash. Y'all ain't even supposed to be in this game, and they still beat us. And I'm just sitting there like at a loss. So now we're 5-7, and I don't know how to feel. I mean, the division's still there for the taking. I just don't know how to feel after that loss to Dallas. Do we even deserve to go to the playoffs? Should we go? I mean, these are the questions I'm asking myself. So you start what would ultimately be a 4-game win streak to end the season off that I didn't see coming. I never see these things coming. So it starts with the Bears. You go to Chicago. You get a big win there. That felt good. The next game up was the Bills game, and this one was probably my favorite game because the animosity that I had at that time for the Bills was so palpable you could cut it with a knife. The tension for me with them at that time after the Sean Taylor game, and because it wasn't just the fact that we honored Sean with 10 and they decided to run a play off tackle to the left for 23 yards. It was the fact that they beat us in that game, and they sucked ass, and they found a way to beat us. Like, I wanted to win that game so bad. And that wasn't anything but the football guys punishing us for Daniel Snyder being our owner. Like, you don't get to have the storybook happy ending. Daniel Snyder's your owner. You got to pay. And you got to pay in the most hurtful way. It can't be just, we got trounced by the way. No, you got to have this game in hand and blow it, and make sure that you lose in a painful, excruciating fashion. So, I wanted the Bills bad, and boy, did we get them. This thing was like 28-3 at one point, and I was just having so much fun with this one. Deshaun had a catch where he essentially comes to like a complete stop down the left sideline, cuts back in, and then just hauls ass on him. It scores a touchdown. His acceleration was stupid. It was so good to have him back after the injury that he sustained early in the season. I was talking to, I want to say it was Red Wing 01, and he was like, yeah, Deshaun, because I couldn't remember which season he was banged up in. Was it 14, 15, or 16? And it was 15 that he was banged up in. But he came back just in enough time to help save the season and turn things around because he had 1,000 yards in 14 and 1,000 yards in 16. He had... I think it was like 500 or 600 in 15, but boy, were they impactful yards. When he was on the field, he was a problem. So we beat them up really good, the Bills. That felt great. So now it's a 2-game win streak. Now you're back to 500. And as bad as the division is, you got a chance to clinch the division at 8-7 with a win on Christmas Eve on a Saturday night at Philly. All you got to do is beat the lowly Eagles. They suck. And I remember so many fans still, because it wasn't even about Kirk. It was about the fact that they wanted Robert Griffin III to be the starting quarterback. And we destroyed him and this, that, and the third. So they didn't want to like Kirk. He was already at a deficit because so many people wanted Robert Griffin III to be the answer. So Kirk was not only having to try to appease them, but he was also just trying to find a way to stay in the league as a starting quarterback. And that play before halftime where he takes a knee instead of spiking the ball and it cost us an opportunity, that was an all-time brain fart. Like, you can't do that. If the Eagles are any good and we end up losing that game, he never lives that moment down. But the Eagles sucked, and he was just stroking it that night, man. Threw a beautiful corner route to Pierre to really put this thing on ice. And what's funny is 2 years later, we couldn't throw a fade route to save it. Man, Kirk was throwing fade route dimes the first 2-3 years of his career starting, and then you get to the end of his tenure in Washington, and the joke is we can't throw a fade. Well, he was throwing them bitches left and right. Pierre, Deshaun, Jordan Reed. He's throwing fades out of his ear hole. And then we can't throw a fade 2 years later. It just doesn't make any sense. But Kirk was locked in that night. Other than the decision to take a knee when he was supposed to spike it, Kirk was locked in. and we go and spank Philadelphia. They were competitive. I don't want to make it seem like they weren't in the game, but we beat them up. It felt good. Deshaun was dancing, doing the little eagle dance, and then kicking it. He was so excited that we won the division, and not only won it, we won it and clinched it, beating his former team that he felt like, deserted him. He was a man scorned out here in these streets. And so it couldn't have been any sweeter for Deshaun to not only win the division, but to clinch it in Philadelphia on their turf. He was wearing that NFC East Championship shirt with the hat proudly as he ran around that stadium mocking those fans. So it was a good night. I can't lie, it was a great Christmas gift. And so we didn't even need Week 17 against Dallas, but what the hell, they suck. They already snuck one from us earlier in the season. Let's go ahead and bash their brains in. And so we promptly went there, beat the brakes off of them, got our guys out of there early. Kirk probably had like 3 touchdown passes in the first half, and we got him out of there. Jordan Reed, I think he needed like maybe 2 catches and like 30-something yards to set the all-time record for most receptions and yards in a season by a tight end, a Redskins tight end. So we got him his record. Kirk needed a few, yards or something to set the Washington record for most. I think it was the most touchdown passes in a season or something like that. I don't remember. It was some kind of record. He set that, and then we got him out of there. Unfortunately, Kyshawn Jarrett got hurt in that game. That game didn't come without a cost. But it was fun. It was fun to go there and let Colt McCoy do those boys, right? Oh, it was great. So you're in the postseason at 9-7. You win the division. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers come to town. And when I tell you FedEx was rocking the "you like that" towels, and we were out for blood, man. And we were fully capable. We sacked. That defense was playing ball. Joe Barry had this defense playing football, man. They had them playing some ball. And we sacked Aaron Rodgers for a safety that got the scoring started in the game. And the defense is howling. We missed some opportunities to. I always remember this game for the missed opportunities, because we had opportunities to score a touchdown on 2 out of our first. I'd say 2 out of our first 5 possessions. This game was like 5-0 going into the second quarter, and then Jordan Reed had just made a great one-hand catch. Kirk was trying to throw a pick six, is what he was trying to do. And Jordan Reed made a ridiculous one-hand catch in between 2 defenders to save Kirk. Big gain. And then ultimately to finish off that drive, he caught a touchdown pass over the linebacker up the seam. And Kirk made a beautiful throw on a 3rd down. But before we got to that, it's 2-0. Deshaun Jackson catches a shallow cross, and he's outrunning a defender to the pylon. And instead of him stretching the ball across the goal line for the touchdown, he has the shit behind him, styling and profiling, and so it's not a touchdown. They initially ruled it a touchdown. They went back, looked at it on replay. It wasn't a touchdown. Well, we got the ball 1st and goal at the 1, so you're thinking we're going to get in. The hell we are. We ran it. We didn't get in. We lost yards on another run. We had a false start that pushed us back. And all of a sudden, you're kicking a damn field goal when it should have been 8. I would have gone for 2 after that touchdown to try to get it to 10. But at worst case, it's 8-0. Best case, it's 10. And if Jay just decided, hey, I'm cool, we don't even want them to have a chance to tie it up with a touchdown and a 2-pointer, kick the extra point, it's 9-0. Whatever the case may be, we ultimately score another touchdown. It could have been 16, 17, or 15-0. And it should have been. And at that point, with the way the defense was playing, I don't know if the Packers come back. And there was another big play, and this I thought the whole game changed that on this single snap. The Packers had not converted a 3rd down in the game to this point. We're up 11-0. And Aaron Rodgers, and they claim they had practiced this all week. Don't try to substitute when Rodgers doesn't substitute. If they substitute, then you can substitute. But if they don't be trying to run in no 3rd down nickel package or none of that shit. Not with Rodgers. You know he's going to catch you slipping. Well, he caught us lacking. We running dudes onto the field, 3rd and 4. He snaps it. It's incomplete. He don't care. He just wanted the 5-yard penalty to get the first down. That was their first third down conversion on a damn penalty. Too many men on the field. And after that, it's like Aaron Rodgers like, all right, I got your ass. And he snapped on us. He blacked out. And next thing I know, I look up, it's 35-16 and we lost. James Starks is getting busy on us. Aaron Rodgers is throwing dimes all over the field. We can't cover anybody. The offense goes to sleep. Yeah, it was one of those games when you go, we did it to ourselves. But in looking at the offense that year and how unstoppable we were at times with Deshaun healthy and Pierre and now Jordan Reed and Jamison Crowder, good luck stopping this offensive attack. You know, Alfred Morris was a non-factor for most of the year. That was the first year of Fat Rob coming in there. And so at this point, I'm like, it's whatever at running back. Don't even matter for real, because with what Kirk is doing in quarterback, good luck. Stop. Kirk set so many records that year in 2015. Are you kidding me? I was looking forward to 2016. And then 2016 turned out to be 2016. And that's where I leave you off on the reign of terror here on the chapter 17. Of the 23 years of hell, pure hell, that Daniel Snyder has put this fan base through. Until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys, have a good one.